Hey everyone, welcome to Fighting Over the Card Catalog, a snarky look back on young adult novels of the 80s and 90s. I'm Jess.
And I'm Steven, and I'm here to make my wife happy.
We're taking a journey to find out how many terrible and hopefully some not so terrible books from my youth I can get my husband to read before he reconsiders this whole marriage. Hi.
Hey, baby.
Hey, baby.
I think I've found my new favorite drink.
What is your new favorite drink?
It is pecan whiskey and vanilla cream soda.
Oh. Now, is that your new pecan whiskey that you got that's cheaper than the other one you got?
Yeah, it tastes, yeah. So,
Cool.
Yeah. Cheaper's better. So how's your week been?
Oh, so bad. Yeah, so this episode's totally late because, my medical shit was just real bad this week. So it happens. Yeah.
Yep.
That's all I got. So this week, we read Whatever Happened to Janie, the second book in the Face on the Milk Carton series by Caroline B. Cooney, published in 1993. Tell us about it.
Whatever happened to Janie? How could it possibly be true? But it is true. As Janie Johnson glanced at the face of the ordinary little girl on the milk carton, she was overcome with shock. She recognized that little girl. It was herself. With the mystery of her kidnapping now unraveled, Janie's story continues, and the nightmare is not over. No one can bring back or relive the 12 years gone by. The Spring family wants justice, but who is really to blame? The Johnsons know that they must abide by the decisions made, but it's difficult to figure out what's best for everyone. Janie Johnson, or Jenny Spring, who is she? Certainly there's enough love for everyone, but how can the two separate families live happily ever after?
Spoiler alert, they can't.
No.
So on the scale of one best book ever to The Dementor's Kiss of 10, sucking the soul from your love of reading, what do you give it?
It was good enough. I'll give it a 3.
Are you serious? Yeah. I give it a 7.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's terrible. Not the writing, but oof. Oofa doofa.
Okay. Well, I guess you'll get into it, but...
I'll get into it, yeah.
But the story itself?
Yeah.
Or just the anxiety it gives you?
It didn't give me anxiety.
No?
It's just the whole situation is so fucked up and terrible.
Yes.
Yes.
But that doesn't make it a bad story.
I guess it's my enjoyment of the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
I thought it was well written, so yeah. That's that in and of itself. It's kind of a unique story. It gives you some...
I hope to God it is.
It gives you some unique perspectives.
Yeah.
So, that all took it up in my book.
Interesting. So we begin with Jody Spring, giving us the insight on how the Spring family has been since her younger sister Jenny, known to us as Janie, was kidnapped 12 years before. The Spring parents have been super duper protective of Jody and her older brother Stephen, never letting them go to school without holding their hands, which is valid.
Yeah.
Up until 10-year-old Stephen flips out and he says he's never going to hold anyone's hand again. So they all do some praying.
Huh.
The Spring family is very religious. I believe Catholic. I think it says that somewhere.
Yeah,
but anyway, and they tell God that they're burying Jenny. Since they never found her body or anything, they couldn't, but they're doing it right now in their heads to put it all behind them and have some closure.
Kinda, but not really.
Yeah, kind of, but not really. But better than it has been.
Yeah, I feel really bad for them because, this is a family of 6.
Yes.
Without...
there are 2 twin brothers
yeah,
as well
without
that
Janie.
were younger.
Yeah, there's a family of 6 living in a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house.
Yeah.
And they refuse to move.
Right.
Just in case.
Yes. in case she can find her way back, even though she's 3. But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once the twins come, then
they've been there.
Stephen has to share a room
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah. Now, Jenny, that's what we're going to call her.
It was difficult enough sharing a house with one bathroom with 2 teenagers.
I can't imagine.
I can't imagine having a spouse and 2 other kids as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be rough.
Yeah. I think any 1-bedroom house situation is horrible. Yeah. That's completely privileged to say. I know.
1 bathroom, you mean?
1 bathroom, yes. Yeah. Well,
1 bedroom too.
But yeah, I mean, I guess with 1, I mean, obviously with 1, but I guess 2 people is probably usually okay, but still a situation. Yeah. But 6 people, 7 people, oof, that's rough. However, the Duggars did share 1 bathroom before they moved into their new house. When they had like 16 kids. Yeah. Oof. They're lucky they got that TLC money.
Outside.
I bet
there was a lot of going long times without taking showers.
Oh, yeah. The stink of it.
You get to shower on a Wednesday and Friday.
Yeah. Gross. Anyway. So Jenny is coming back, and the family is all turned upside down again. Stephen is very angry. He usually is. The younger twins, Brian and Brendan, are pretty much in their own little world. They pretty much always are. The parents are all aflutter and excited and nervous. And Jody, this is going to be confusing.
Yeah.
Jody is basically excited, but also dealing with some anger that Jenny has been fine this entire time while they were all worried and paranoid, which, I mean, she was. And I'd feel some resentment, I guess, over that because it destroyed their lives. And she's like, man,
I didn't know. Great. I was just hanging out, having a good time.
So it turns out the Springs have agreed not to prosecute Hannah, the Johnsons' real daughter who kidnapped Jenny from a mall.
Yeah, just as a recap for those who don't remember that for a while back. Basically, Hannah picked up this girl from a mall or something like it and got her ice cream. Bought her ice cream and then just kind of took her home.
Yeah.
And told her parents, because Hannah had been in a cult and saw that this girl was not getting any attention because of all these other kids. And that's why she kind of took her. And then she told her parents that this was the kid of one of the cult leaders and that...
And hers.
And that she was trying to get her away from the cult. And Hannah's parents ended up doing all this stuff like changing...
Well, no. They weren't Johnsons then.
Yeah, changing their name, moving to different cities, changing jobs, just so that this cult leader couldn't find them. And that also made them miss all of the announcements of this missing girl.
Right.
From the area who apparently had been kidnapped. And so, that's getting you caught up on that.
And then
situation.
Hannah took off again.
And hasn't been seen since.
Right. Good recap. Yeah. Great job. High five yourself. The Springs have agreed not to prosecute her so long as Jenny returns to them. And also, a complete no contact to her old life rule is set up in place for 3 months. I get what they're doing. It's like, rip off the Band-Aid and get used to it, jump in the pool, whatever. But, oof.
As a father.
She is 15 years old.
Yeah, as a father, I couldn't imagine having, somebody come into my life at age 2, and then 13 years later, no, I guess she was 3 years old.
Yeah.
And then 12 years later, somebody saying, no, she's not anything to do with you, and go away.
Okay. Here's my question. If this happened in real life, that's not what they would do, right?
It could be. Yes.
It could be?
Yes, it
With
absolutely
zero
could
contact? If they weren't abusive and shit?
Well, you would think that I don't know. I'm sure it would have to do with the family they were taking it from.
Right.
And how because there's got to be more psychological evidence of stuff now than there was back then, and how.
And can we talk about none of them having any therapy? Holy fuck! Come on.
It's
even
bad.
In '93. I mean, this isn't like the '70s.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is still stigma, I guess,
sure.
And they're religious.
Yeah,
but there was still not even any thought. I mean, they're Catholic, usually you go to your priest for that.
Right.
Like any sort of problem, pretty much, if you don't do therapy.
Yeah.
But no talk of that either.
But yeah, I mean, it's basically taking her. She's in her junior year of high school, has been going to school with the same group for a long time now, has a boyfriend, has best friends, is in the flow,
she's got a whole good life.
Yeah. And all of a sudden she's pulled out, she's the only kid in a family with parents that have a lot of money and do things with her, like just going shopping. Her and her mom just like to go shopping.
Yeah, they're like a healthy amount of bestie mom and daughter.
Yeah, they do baking cakes and stuff together.
Decorating
cakes. And then all of a sudden she's being pulled out of this. She has to go to a brand new school. She has to live with people
2 states away.
Are basically strangers to her, even though they're her real family. They are all strangers to her. And live in a house where she's having to share a room with someone else who snores and makes noises, and share a bathroom
with 6 other people.
6 other people, and
apparently this is going to be my biggest problem.
Yeah. So anyway, she's totally. I mean, that's a mind fuck.
It's a big
to
old
think
mind
about
fuck.
Being, where you were at when you were 15 years old.
Like, oh my God.
But she thought she was 16, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, she thought she was 16 and, no, not quite.
No, I think
at 15, but almost 16.
I think the age was right, but the birthday wasn't.
Right.
I'm pretty sure.
And think about being where you were in your life at that time.
Oh my God.
And then all of a sudden, these aren't your parents. Here's your parents.
Yeah, it's like the worst city. Like in there probably like 12 to 15. Like, you are so unstable anyway.
Oh yeah.
Even if you have a very good privileged life, you're it'd be terrible.
Was it the amygdala? Overactive amygdala.
Oh, yeah.
Dula oblongata.
We don't know what we're talking about.
Anyway, kids are enough emotional wrecks and bags of chemicals at that time. Sacks of chemicals. Without throwing in additional drama.
Everyone back in Connecticut, the Johnson's house, is completely upset. And her best friend tries to throw her a going away party, kind of. And it's like, it's not a celebration, so we don't know what's happening. Her mom is like refuses to hug her at one point because she's too upset, but she does get over that at least. But damn, it's a lot to put on poor Jenny. And of course she is super bummed about leaving her boyfriend next door, Reeve. And we're just so lucky to be blessed with his dick back point of view as Jenny leaves. Okay, so he's like really upset that she's not going to be there for his prom and graduation because that's what matters here, Reeve.
Of course it is.
In fact, he says he has the audacity to say that he thinks it will be easier for Jenny than for him. Oh my God, my dude. I hate this guy.
Very selfish. I mean, that's just the teenage condition.
I guess, but come on. Okay, and then he flat out says that sometimes he can't stand women because they can think about casseroles and cookies for people at a time like this. Like his mom is doing right now for the Johnsons because she's fucking lovely. So this lawyer pulls up to take Jenny away, and Reeve and his mom join the Johnsons outside, and it's really quite sad. And the Johnsons are trying to be strong for Jenny, but after the car pulls away, Mrs. Johnson collapses, and it's like, oh, this may actually kill her.
Mm-hmm. She collapses, and they grab her, and she says, "Don't let Jenny see. Don't let Jenny see."
It's very dramatic. Then we get angry Steven's point of view. By the way, this is PH Steven, not B Steven, like this one. Anyways, he's really resentful of this whole thing, like from way back. Right, they were about to close on a big new house that had more than one bathroom. That would actually fit their whole family when Jenny was kidnapped. But like we said, they never moved so she could find her way home. And Steven's like, even if she could remember all that at 3, she would have by now. And he's not wrong.
Right.
So we don't get to see the actual reunion, which is fine. Everything's still hella awkward a couple days into this. And I understand Jenny is in an awful situation, but she's coming off hella judgy about teeny tiny things. Like she can't believe they have apple juice instead of orange.
Yeah.
They never have sandwiches. The house is loud and smells different. I mean, I get it. You know, she's picking on these little things.
Right. Well, I never actually hear her ask for sandwiches because she says that multiple times. She never asks for any of this stuff that I know.
You're right. Yeah.
Hey, can I get orange juice? I'm just used to orange juice. It'd really be a comfort if I could have some orange juice instead of apple juice.
But, I mean, it doesn't seem like she's saying much.
Yeah, she doesn't want to say anything. So she just...
Which, I mean, to be fair, I probably wouldn't have either.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have been very closed off, I'm sure. Oh, yeah. Speaking of that one shower, they have to set a timer for 3-minute showers. Like, wow, that would be buck wild to me too.
I mean, is that from the time you start it?
That's what I was wondering.
Cold? Or from the time it actually starts getting warm?
It should be from the time it starts getting warm. Because that's what matters, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we had to take some very quick showers in the military in basic training. Yeah.
Did you time it?
It was so weird.
Oh, no.
You basically all lined up in a line, turned on all the showers, and then you kind of shuffled through all the showers. And by the time you were done at the end, you had to be done with all your showering needs. And that's how you did showers in basic training. Now, once you got out of basic training, it wasn't like that.
No, not, but wow. Okay, I guess that's part of the whole breaking you down to build you back up.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So she's having a really hard time with the bio parents, the spring parents. They just want to love her and hug on her and share baby pics, but yeah, they're actual strangers to her.
Yeah, and they went and bought a whole bunch of stuff that said Jenny on it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Jody says, like, her mom's, like, obsessed with, like, things that has the kids' names on it, like notebooks and brushes and just anything that has your name.
I don't think they really have gotten it through their head that this girl is used to being called Janie, and she has not been traumatized to where she's going to just reject everything from her past.
Right. I mean, that's part of her
all of a sudden, like,
identity.
Oh, I'm Jenny now.
Yeah, that would be part of her identity that would be very easy for her to keep. Yeah, I mean, it would probably be some tiny source of comfort, but nobody's really thinking about that. But they say sometime that they probably think that it got switched to Janie because she probably said Jenny, but Hannah misunderstood her. So that makes sense. But so Janie says, I'm sorry. I'm trying. I really am. But it's hard. I've been taken away from my real family twice. She didn't want to cry. She didn't want them to see how scared she was. Except the Johnsons weren't your real family, said Mr. Spring carefully. They were wonderful people, and we will always be in debt to them because they took care of our daughter for us. But you're back with your real family, sweetie. Yikes. So that's where they're coming from. And I mean, it's like there's no level of understanding there.
Right.
It's more about them and how they're thinking of the Johnsons and not how Jenny does. So her first day at school sucks, obviously. There'd been a lot of publicity about her being returned, but no one's allowed to ask her about it. They had like this huge assembly where they were told all the details, so they wouldn't ask her questions. And that pisses Jenny off. I kind of get it, but I don't think there's a correct way to deal with that because you don't want them all coming up to her and asking her questions all the time.
Sure.
But yeah, a mass here's everything is not cool either.
It leaves you wanting more.
Mm. So Jody's hella bitter that Jenny hasn't completely acclimated and is still acting scared after 3 days. That girl, come on. She thinks her family is just so dope that she can't understand why Jenny doesn't think so immediately. And she's also dealing with some envy over how much Jenny has. And, like clothes and all this stuff, including 30 Swatch watches. That is excessive.
That is excessive.
I did look some up to post some pictures of some, and I really want those retro ones to come back. They are cool. Like, I wouldn't mind having 30 of them, but 30?
Yeah. I think Todd had like 4 or 5.
Yeah. I mean, they were trendy in all the different, styles and stuff. Yeah. That makes sense.
You gotta catch 'em all.
They're not Pokemon watches.
They were like that.
I mean, kinda. So Jenny has her first experience of a normal Saturday at the Spring House, and it is loud and busy and crowded, and she hates it. Jody's friend Nicole is there working on like a Project Runway unconventional challenge, basically. Sewing matchbox cars onto a dress. And Jenny says it's the most pathetic thing she's ever seen. She says it to herself, not out loud. Nicole gets her to help out, which is cool, but also asks some nosy questions, which is not. But Mrs. Spring, just like, Nicole, stop. And when Nicole puts this dress on, Jenny realizes, hey, that's actually pretty dope. And she kind of gets into the whole swing of things until she tells the whole group how she took horseback riding lessons and how many horses she owned. And she has zero idea of her privilege. But the others sure as hell do. And so things turn shitty again, real quick. And it continues to be like a 1 step forward, 2 step back thing, which she even fucking realizes and says it. One of the twins, Brian, turns out to be not as good at basketball as Brendan. And like, that's their thing, is sports. And so this is hella awkward for everyone. And Jenny actually literally reaches out to him, and it's very nice. But when they go for pizza, she says her mother doesn't believe in junk food. Oh, Jenny.
What kind of pizza do you like? We'll get a half a pizza with that on it. Yeah,
they're being so nice. Oh, my mom doesn't believe in junk food.
I don't eat pizza.
Yeah. So that night she kind of breaks down and asks to call the Johnsons because the Springs are great. They let her. Even though this is against that rule. We don't know who set up this rule. If it was them if it was the lawyers or what. Anyways, they let her, and she just kind of cries at first. And her mom just talks normally and tells her about her day, that sort of thing, because she's pretty great. And she says it's difficult for everybody, but, it basically is what it is. And Mr. Spring talks to her, and he's like, this whole no contact thing sucks. And he thinks they should talk every day and then taper off. So good on you, Mr. Spring. You're finally kind of getting it. Janie is actually bonding with Jody and Angry Steven over magazines and hair, and they have a really great afternoon of Mario Kart together until they go for a snack, and Janie has one single thought about her dad, as in Mr. Johnson, and she just totally shuts down and totally sets off Janie's anger. Like, this bitch.
Like, how can she have a good time when I'm not with my family?
Yeah, and I know they're so sad. But, yeah, Jody gets really upset that she just shuts down after they've been having a good time. And Steven's actually, like, mediator in this instance, and it's really nice to see. Janie's mom calls and tell her that she's talked to the Springs and that Janie needs to just try harder. So she writes down some resolutions knowing she's going to break them right away. Oh, good. Then dickbag Reeve shows up. He drove to New Jersey to tell Janie he got into college, which, great job. But his entire first paragraph in this chapter is about how hot she is. And he's also extremely into himself and has thoughts like, Reeve was new enough to shaving that he still thought standing in front of that mirror and using that razor was the best thing that ever happened to him. Sex would be better, but sex was harder to get than razors. I cannot with this boy. Anyway, the Springs seem to like him because they like everybody. And he likes them, and so he's allowed to take Janie out. They talk about tennis lessons, and then he goes, you know what else I could give you a lesson in? She knew the topic immediately. On whom, she said, have you been practicing? He just grinned. The grin went on and on until she had to deflect it. Reeve, I've been so selfish since I came here. I knew it, he said, flopping back against the seat. I knew you would want to talk instead. I was selfish, though. I happen to love the self that you are, and I want to get to know it better. Lots better. She was starved for love. What a contradiction, considering that she had two families who love her so much. It put them all in agony. What is love, anyway, thought Janie. Reeve, she said, what do you think love really is? Love, Reeve said firmly, does not involve talking. I hate this boy. So they obviously have sex here. But it's not explicit, thank goodness, because love doesn't involve talking or exposition, I guess. But so they get back, and Reeve charms everybody, and he gets permission from them for Janie to go to Connecticut to go to the prom with him. Ooh, so there's one of his problems down. So now that she has consistent contact with Reeve, she's happier at home and starts to like her family. Sex is better than razors, apparently. Hey, kids! Do you love fighting over the card catalog?
Totally!
Now you can find your favorite podcast all over the World Wide Web. Look for us on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, and Pinterest at Fighting Over the Card Catalog, or on Twitter at Card Catalog Pod. And as a special bonus, head over to our very own website, fightingoverthecardcatalog.com. And now, You can get the inside scoop on co-host Jess on Instagram and Twitter at Jess Digress.
Whoa!
Next, you can become a junior cataloger just by sharing us with your friends and rating and subscribing on Apple Podcasts.
Whoa!
Available wherever podcasts are sold. Podcasts not actually sold, but available in all podcatchers for free. Junior catalogers under the age of 18, ask your parent or guardian's permission before downloading. So one day after school, the FBI and the police who had initially been on her case are there. Surprise! And it just sounds like they're there to stir shit up. They go over what everyone can remember about the day. And so we get this picture of this side of it. Mrs. Spring was shoe shopping with all the kids, which sounds like hell. This is 5 kids, 6 and under. Ooh. Anyways, Jenny got bored and wandered away. And when that was discovered, Mrs. Spring yelled at 5-year-old Jody and 6-year-old Stephen for not watching her.
Yeah.
It's like, no wonder they have residual guilt over this.
Sure.
Damn, woman. I mean, I know she was freaking out, but damn, woman. There's basically a lot of exposition about cults, because Jody and everybody has a lot of questions about that.
So they said basically the mom was getting new shoes for the twins.
Yeah.
And they were being difficult.
Because they were like 1 or 2.
Jenny had asked for something, and her
purse, I think. Yeah.
Her mom kind of yelled at her and told her no, and so she just kind of walked away. And
yeah,
it's one of those things. If you're not making a big problem for anybody, then you just nobody thinks about it.
Right.
So.
Especially when you're dealing with 1-year-old twins who are like kicking the shoe assisting. Yeah, so here's where we learned that Hannah was arrested 2 years ago in New York and held overnight for prostitution. Everyone's shocked by that. There's a bit of a sex worker shaming here, and it's pretty gross. Anyway, so we all know that they're looking for her, even though everyone thought she wasn't going to be prosecuted if Jenny just went back. But nope, turns out they are. And so Jenny's upset and worried about, her Johnson parents, which leads to her like finally hugging her Spring dad and becomes his daughter. But hold up, not for long, not even into the next chapter. Janie wakes up on what she's always known to be her birthday. And she decides that she can't do this anymore and tells the Springs that she's 16 now. She's made a decision. She's going back to Connecticut in a few weeks once school is over. And apparently this is fine now. She can go. I mean, not fine emotionally for the Springs, but there's no rule anymore or whatever. I don't know how much of this was set with the lawyers or whatever. But anyways, it's not fine. The Springs are upset. The parents are heartbroken. But Stephen and Jody are fucking pissed for their family being put through all this. And the twins don't really care. Because they're like 12, whatever. They send Jenny over to an aunt and uncle's for the evening and have dinner by themselves. And they get all their feelings out together. And I think it was a really great decision on their part. They needed this. And they basically all come to the conclusion that this is all Hannah's fault. And they all basically hate her, which is valid. The mom's like, we shouldn't be saying this, but
yeah,
she feels the same. And like the dad like bends a spoon all the way into a circle in anger, and the twins are like, oh, do mine. And he just does. I mean, they really are a cool family, except for the whole insisting she come back with no therapy and contact.
And yet you gave the book a 7.
And yet I gave the book a 7. I'll get into it. So Stephen says it's like bullshit to wait this 6 weeks or whatever for her to go back. It would be a terrible time the entire time.
So can we talk about, like, she said, I know I'm not 16 yet, but but I thought I was 16.
Right.
So I made the decision I'm going to go live with my other parents.
Uh-huh.
Is that a thing?
Because she's 16?
Yeah, I mean, was
Like,
it just like
legally
at
or
16 you can decide who you want to live with, or
Legally?
yeah.
Or on their fake rules that they've made up in this situation?
Well, I'm saying legally for
I
real.
don't think so. No.
Because, like, they're like, well, she'll really turn 16 in 6 weeks, and then she can go live with them.
I thought it was more had to do with school being out.
Oh, was it?
I think so. Which, I mean, that made sense.
Yeah.
At least. Because she's been there the whole semester.
There was something in there about the mom acknowledging, well, she's not 16 yet, but we're going to let her.
Right.
When
I don't know. I think it's just because it's like a milestone age. In like, I don't know, you're mature enough to drive.
I know in like custody
I don't
cases, there's an age where they can decide which parent they want to live with. But, you know, this doesn't have anything to do with real parents. So,
well, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's just an arbitrary. She feels like she's mature enough to make this decision. And,
well, I mean, I guess if you know, let us know.
Yeah. Is 16 a magical age, at least in New Jersey?
Yeah.
Steven's like, she should go back now. And their dad agrees. She can go back right away because it would be an awful few weeks. Everybody acting all fake and shit, or just so much resentment and anger out there. And yeah, it makes sense for her to go back now. So Mrs. Spring ends up...
academically, she's probably going to have to do this semester over again, right?
Right, it's probably a mess. So yeah, Mrs. Spring ends up taking her by herself. Jenny doesn't have like a sweet goodbye or anything with Stephen and Jody, but it's not awful. And apparently they have plans to go visit her in Connecticut soon. So that's something. And on the way up, Jenny, and Mrs. Spring have a really nice moment. They're able to kind of break down apologizing for the guilt that they both feel for what happened 12 years before. Jenny about, just wandering away. But I mean, she was 3.
Yeah.
Miss Spring has felt guilty because
the middle child with so little attention given to her.
Exactly. And how the others came in pairs, kind of.
Yeah.
Like obviously the twins. But Jody and Stephen being older were kind of a pair, and then there was Jenny stuck in the middle. And apparently very frustrating. So we're back in Connecticut a couple weeks later, and Janie is seeing how the last few months have really taken a toll on her Johnson parents. They both seem older, and they don't have their normal interests. They just kind of let that all go. And even Mrs. Spring's memories kind of going, and it's kind of awkward. But Janie encourages them to get back to life. And she recognizes Mrs. Spring in herself, being real encouraging and open and stuff.
I can just imagine how depressed they were.
I mean, for real. And
it's almost like the death of a kid. How they're just taken away.
Especially with the no contact.
Yeah.
It was just as cruel to them as it was to Janie, I think. Mrs. Spring writes a letter to Janie, a nice, lively letter, letting her know just what's up with the family and how everybody's doing, the twins with basketball and stuff. And she encourages Jenny to write back. Meanwhile, Stephen and Jody are leaning into their Hannah hatred big time. And they're determined to find Hannah and hurt her. And it's a very sudden dark turn, kids. Apparently I didn't write the rest of this up, so we're just going to have to swing it. I mean, it's a chapter. But so they sneak off to New York when they're supposed to be staying with that aunt and uncle. They're very convenient characters we don't see.
Right.
So they sneak off into the city, which they've never done alone, obviously, because the Springs are real protective. And when they first come out of Penn Station, they look around and they're like really kind of disappointed and shocked that it's not like scummy and gross. And it's like, oh, there's these nice police officers all over the place and it's nice and sunny and people are like rollerblading.
So their plan is to go to all of the soup kitchens and try to find Hannah at one of them.
Yeah. They have a plan to go to like 6. They found them in like the phone book or
yeah.
Because 1993, y'all.
Yep.
And they bring a map with them.
Maps.
It's very cute. And so, yeah, they're definitely overwhelmed at first. Because I don't know how they can find all these places from a map. But they start off for one, and apparently they're very confused by the, like, fashion district, I'm guessing, because, like, this, like, rack of clothes, like, goes by them. And they're like, what is this? It's very cute. But they go down this alley where there's, like, creepy-looking guys, and Reeve's like, not Reeve, no. Steven's like, oh my God, something's going to happen to Jody. Oh, we're going to get jumped. And nothing happens. Jody's just like completely
oblivious.
Completely oblivious to any of this. So they go into this one, their first soup kitchen, and they get food themselves, I guess, to try and like fit in. And they start asking, they have the old picture of Hannah to show around to see if anybody's seen her. And the other people there are like, why? What do you want with her? And it just occurs to them. They're like, oh, they might be on Hannah's side. Oh. But they tell them that, oh, Hannah's their sister. And they're looking for her. So they kind of warm up to them. But still, they're like.
So they were like, a pretty girl like that. She's probably a prostitute.
Yeah, and she's all drugged out now. She's not going to look the same. Yeah. And this one person goes, how old do you think I am? And I forget how old they say, but it's like way younger than Jody.
I was like, I thought she was like 50 or 60. And she's like 30 or something like that.
So, these poor little kids, they're pretty freaked out. But Steven gets up and goes and asks people. And they do it pretty well, I guess, for what they wanted to be doing.
It should have become obvious fairly quickly that they were looking for a needle in a haystack, first of all.
Yeah, but they really thought they could do it because what were the chances that Janie would see her picture on the milk carton?
But I don't think it really sunk in with Steven until they're out in this busy section and he starts talking to Jody, and then he turns around, and Jody's not there.
Yep, and he starts flipping out for good reason.
And then he obviously flips out, and he starts yelling her name and like running around. There's just people everywhere.
Yeah,
and this cop sees him, and stops him. And starts asking, what's going on? And he's telling her, my sister. And, he's just really freaking out. And he starts describing her and she kind of starts laughing. And then, obviously he doesn't know why. And she points across.
Because that seems pretty shitty.
She points across the street and there's Jenny talking to another police officer across the street. So he runs across, and this cop was kind of a trip. So Jody's showing him the picture and asking if he's seen him, and asking, surely you've been told about her because
it was so cute.
The FBI said that they were looking for her in New York. And
her, right?
Like every cop was going to know what her picture looked like and was actively looking for her.
Oh, they're so naive.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so cute.
And, I think by this time, Steven had, just from that little incident, had already seen the immensity of trying to find one person in the city. just from looking for his sister who was right there.
Right.
And so then the police officer says, "Oh, that's her right over there."
Oh, yeah. It was good.
And they
What?
look, and there's just like this bag person. They said, I can't even.
A person experiencing homelessness.
Yes, and they were. So basically, I don't know who was internally monologuing this, but they were like, I couldn't even tell if that was a woman if he hadn't told me.
They called it it. Called it. And I just said that. They called this person it. And I was like, eee.
Yeah.
Don't like that. But
well, I mean, because they literally couldn't tell what sex. And they were so dirty and their hair so messed up. And they're like,
what?
How do you know that's her? And he's like, he's like, even if that's not her, that's exactly what you'd be, looking for. This, she wouldn't look the same at all. She wouldn't be the same person. People come here all the time and they have these big ideas, and when they can't make it, they, starts going into the realism of what the city does to people. And so, then they decide to go home, and they're not as upset anymore.
Yep, it's fine. The end. We had a technical difficulty. We just talked for about 20 more minutes until we got to that. So that's probably the end. Anyways, what was your favorite part?
The end.
You can't say that every week.
But you ask me the same question every week.
I know, but you had to like something. You gave it a 7.
Oh, man, I don't remember what I said. What did I say?
I don't know.
What's my favorite part?
I literally don't remember. I'm keeping all this in. So my thing was that I appreciated that the story was told from Jody and Steven's points of view. Because it's really a sort of thing that affects the whole family. Yeah,
because you see the point of view from the kid who's kidnapped, you've seen the point of view from the parents, but you very rarely see it from a sibling.
Right, and keeping it to just the teen's point of view keeps it within the genre and keeps it relatable.
Right, because you hear the point of view from the parents, but it's from the kid's point of view.
Right.
You know how they feel, but... Yeah.
So we remembered that. I didn't appreciate Dick Bag Reeve's perspective because I hate him and he's a nasty creeper boy. But also the whole concept of the book. Not the writing or anything, but the situation. It makes for a good story, and it would make for a lesser story if they did what I thought they should have done in this situation.
Right.
Which was just to let Janie stay with the Johnsons while getting to know the Springs at like a fucking healthy, reasonable pace. Like they could meet in New York and do things together. And
on the weekends or summers.
Yeah.
My least favorite was how Janie was constantly saying, I'm going to try harder. And then no, she's like, fuck that. And then no, I'm going to try harder. And then no, fuck that.
Yep. So what did we learn today? I learned that if you turn your whole life and fate over to law enforcement, there's a very good chance that they will fuck up yours and many other people's lives, causing irrevocable damage.
Okay. Yeah.
No Snark Zone. So we're going to talk more about U.S. voting and stuff. And I'm sorry that this is U.S. centric, but everything's buck wild right now. I mean, always. But anyways, the Iowa caucus, less than 2 weeks away. And I'm still not sure I understand caucuses, except they're weird and super problematic. But anyways, this week we're going to talk about vote411.org. You can do all the things there. Check your registration status, what you need to do right now. Find your polling place and your local ID laws, because that's very important. And everything else on your ballots, which I have not looked into. But I'll do it by February 18th, which is when our early voting starts. Anyways, vote411.org. And then also, It may be too late by the time you hear this, but as of right now, our impeachment process is going on. And it'd be really great if everybody could contact their senators and tell them we just fucking want witnesses and documents right now. Damn it. Contact your senator at 202-224-3121, and that will get you to, well, that's how you had to get there, to your particular senator. From there, do you want to talk about the impeachment process?
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically in our judicial system, we have a, what's it called?
Grand jury?
A grand jury, which their job is to look at some of the evidence and say, is there enough information to have a trial? And that's what our House of Representatives did. They were the grand jury. They were supposed to look and say, is there enough potential evidence to say to have a trial?
Mm-hmm.
And then the trial,
and they decide exactly what's going to be prosecuted or
what the charges are.
Articles are.
Yeah, what the charges are.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Senate is supposed to be the actual trial, in which they're
the jurors.
They're the jurors. They have evidence and witnesses give testimony, look at the evidence, and see, from that point of view, then the senators are the jurors, and they say whether to convict or not convict, or impeach or not impeach.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's been impeached.
He's been right.
To be thrown out
removed.
of office.
Yes.
To be removed, yes. Which has never happened.
Yeah. So because the Senate majority is the same political party as the president who's been impeached, they're saying that they're not going to allow any new testimony or any new evidence.
Well, technically, they're going to vote on it after all the opening arguments are done.
Okay, right.
The House has just finished their 3 days of opening arguments, and then, well, the Senate is going to split it up 24 hours over 3 coming up next. And then they'll vote on whether they can have, if they're going to accept any witnesses or new documents. So
what happened in the House is they had a lot of people that things were leading to, and people with direct knowledge and, kind of like secondhand, this person actually told me this and they were in the room, or people who they found text messages back and forth to other people who said, we have direct knowledge of this.
Or my favorite was Lev Parnas overheard a phone conversation. I forget who Trump was talking to, but Lev was in this room with this other person, and he could hear Trump yelling on the phone. And so that was his testimony, is what he heard Trump say.
Right. But the person who was actually on the phone with him.
Right. We don't know who that is. Or we know who they are, but not.
Who has the firsthand knowledge and who can say, no, this is exactly what he said. And that guy actually did hear it correctly.
Right.
When the subpoenas were given, the president, the White House basically wrote them letters saying, you have been ordered not to appear before. So even though this is contempt of Congress.
Well, and that's what the second article of impeachment is that he's been obstructing.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he's doing out in the open.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So the Senate is now saying, because they don't want to hear this testimony, they don't want him thrown out, they don't want any more bad press, they're saying, no, we're just going to allow the president to obstruct and not have these people testify. And we don't want any new evidence. We don't want to hear testimony, any new testimony. And that, this needs to be a process that is impartial. You need to hear all the evidence and you need to get the actual facts. It certainly sounds like the things that the House is saying he did.
Oh, yeah.
And
because from the testimonies we did get from certain people, like, they all corroborate each other, and then the texts corroborate what they're saying. And, These aren't necessarily texts, including those people. Like, they're totally separate. Some of them, not all of them, but yeah.
Yep. And so it's like a lot of people said, why would he not want people to testify unless he's afraid of what they're going to say?
Yeah, I mean, if you're an innocent person, you don't do that. You would want, I don't know. But anyways, you wouldn't be fighting this hard against everything if you were innocent. Anyways, and this is very important, even if he doesn't get thrown out, because if we don't fight against it, it's saying that this is okay.
It sets a precedent for every other president to come in the future.
Republican and Democrat.
No matter what, as long as they have one of the branches of other branches of government in their control, under their control, then that means that they can basically do whatever they want. They can blackmail whoever they want. They can withhold critical funding to other countries until they get their way for personal gain.
Yeah, Ukraine, I'm so sorry, y'all.
Yeah.
It's not all of us, I promise.
Anyway, if you have questions about that, ask us. Cause
I hope you enjoyed the civics lesson.
Because Jess has been listening to all of the testimony.
I've been watching pretty much as I can.
Yeah, even more than I'm sure most of the senators are.
Oh yeah, they're going out and stuff.
Yeah.
Freaking Dianne Feinstein, who is a Democrat, and I respect. She left an hour early the first day of opening testimony, and I was like, I understand that you know all this, I'm sure she listened to all the House testimonies and has read everything. But still, girl, you gotta stay. You're lucky you didn't get arrested. Anyways, like, they're allowed to get up and stretch, and a lot of them have been like going back to the back of the room, and it's like, sure, I understand that. That's a lot of sitting, because this is like that first day. Ooh, y'all, it was like 14 hours. And that was just voting on the rules, and then the last 3 days have been like 8 hours each, and yeah, but sit there and fucking listen. I have you basically, but I can also play on my phone.
This is their job. They get salaries for the rest of their freaking life, and they get this amazing health care for the rest of their freaking life. They can take this seriously and listen to all of it.
Yeah, both sides. By the way, both sides, listening to both sides. Yeah. It's your job. Yeah. There's like not much more important than this going on right now. Anyways, we have a lot of feelings, which everyone should. Everyone in the U.S. should. Anyways, what are you reading? What is taking you away from all this horrible political stuff? I won't say bullshit. I mean, it's important.
I don't know if I had finished it before, but Deceived, Star Wars. I finished I
don't think you'd finished it.
Second book in the series.
Right, because you're going like 4, 2, 3, 1 or something.
Yes, 4, 2, 3, 1. So I finished the second book. It was pretty good.
Yeah, then we started it last time.
New series called Seafire. They described it as, what was it? What's that? Mad Max on the ocean. Is how they described it.
That sounds wild.
And I guess it's kind of a dystopian future where all these communities are.
Is it like Waterworld too? Well,
it's like most of the people try to make their living on or near the ocean, or maybe it's just that that's who the people that we come to follow have lived their life. And
I am going to think of it as climate change bullshit, and then everything underwater.
And most everything is controlled by one guy who goes and takes kids from all of these villages. They have to give a certain amount of kids every year.
Sure.
and then he keeps them on this drug to make them dependent, and they do his bidding. And so the main character, when she was like 12, she was off of the boat trying to get some supplies, and she ended up not killing this guy who was one of the gang, and he ended up stabbing her in the stomach, and then they went and found her boat and killed everybody on it. And so anyway, she's gotten a crew of all women to and they go around fighting against this group and these guys. And yeah, so there's more in the series. I'll probably listen to more, but after I finish other books.
Sure. It sounds badass.
And then the Expanse series, I'm on book, whatever this is. It's called the Cibola Burn.
The what now?
The Cibola Burn. And yes, this author is very good. So I'm guessing he's probably done other things. James S.A. Corey. I really enjoy his writing style and how he has a lot of things going on at one time, and he ties them back into each other, and lots of different storyline going on at one time, and a lot of unique imagination, and also putting in real science with how like we've got these gates between worlds now. And there was a group of people who went to one of the worlds kind of illegally without anybody any governments telling them that they can. There's basically three main governments. There's Earth, there's Mars, and then there's the Belters. The Belters just live out in space around and have their own like floating city, ships, whatever.
Dope.
And it's really weird because they look different according to where they've been raised. Like the Belters are elongated because they have a lack of G-forces, and their bodies actually change. It changes them. And
that's lacking from a lot of other sci-fi.
And they go to this new world, and it's and then there's a UN or an Earth company has been given rights to mine this world, and they go and they're trying to kick all these people who were original settlers off, and there's a lot of conflict between the corporation. Well, anyway, there's other things start happening, and they start interacting with these organisms, and there's certain things about proteins, and I've read this in another book, and I can't remember which one it was, but anyway, how other things evolve in other universes will not necessarily interact well with human organisms, and so some of that's starting to happen, and like the main protagonists are in the middle of it that have been in the whole series,
right?
But anyway, it's really good. Cool. I recommend.
Cool. So I'm rereading Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. It's the first book in the Truly Devious trilogy. The third book just came out this past week, but I wanted to make sure to reread this and The Vanishing Stair before I got to The Hand on the Wall. I have it. I pre-ordered it, but it's a mystery, and she's been putting in like little things so throughout the first two books to figure out the mystery, so I wanted to reread it before the third book. It's about this girl named Stevie Bell. She's in high school, and she gets accepted into this school called Ellingham Academy. It's up on a mountain in Vermont, and it's a very special school, a very fancy school. But this rich dude back in the 30s opened it for like kids to come and study like their own specialized thing. Like she is into solving murders and she listens to like murder podcasts and watches a lot of investigation and discovery, and like that's her thing. And there are other people in her dorm that like one girl builds all sorts of machines and stuff, and another guy published a book when he was like 14, and now he's working on his second book and stuff like that. So they're all very, very focused on their own things. And but anyways, back in the 30s, this guy, his wife and daughter were kidnapped, and the wife was found dead a while later, and there'd been a whole ransom thing. Anyways, nobody ever figured out what happened, and so that's why she is there. She decided she is going to solve this case. And then some other weird things start happening at the school, and so she's got to figure those out too. Anyways, that's basically it's very good. They're written by Maureen Johnson, who is one of my absolute just favorite all-around people in the world. She's one of my favorite YA writers. I've loved all her other books pretty much. But she's also one of my absolute favorite podcasters and tweeters. Oh, yeah, she does Says Who with Dan Sinker. It's not a podcast. It's a coping strategy. They started it 8 weeks before the 2016 election, and they thought that was going to be it because we were going to win. And it was just to like deal with like all the craziness in the lead up to that. But there's been even more craziness since, obviously. Right. So they're still going at it almost 4 years later, and it is a coping strategy. I appreciate it very much. They're very funny, but it's very informative, and it's wonderful. Anyways, I just love her, and hey, I'm just giving them a whole advertisement. It's fine. It helps. Dan Sinker, has started a newsletter. He watches everything all day. It's called impeachment.fyi, and he sums up everything that happens every day, and it is the best resource. I highly recommend it. Anyway, went off on that tangent. Anyways, I love Maureen Johnson a lot. Follow her on Twitter. She's amazing and hilarious. Anyway, so the next book is a totally new series. Is number 1 in the Pen Pals series called Boys Wanted. It's very short. It's a concept. It's a very different concept.
All right.
For middle grade young adult series. Anyways, we're rereading books to be childhood.
So you don't have to.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.